Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar for today. I'm really excited. Today, we're going to talk about what's new in the IGEL OS 10.4.100. And this product was just released. This version was just released last week. So we wanted to do a quick webinar with you and tell you about what's new and sort of dive into some of the new features. So to do that, I brought on the amazing Matthias Huber, who is from our product management group. And Matthias is, well, he's an amazing guy. He's fun to be around, fun to listen to, and extremely intelligent. So I'm really excited about this webinar and hearing what Matthias has to share with us. So on that note, let's get going. But before we get going, before I turn this over to Matthias, I do want to talk to you a bit about the IGEL community itself. This is an IGEL community webinar. This is our second IGEL community webinar, our first with the product management group, but our second in general. The first one we did with Device Trust and how they integrate within the IGEL suite, and then a bit about what they're doing with contextual security. So really interesting stuff, and I think you guys would like that, so please refer back to that. What is the IGEL community and why should you join? Why should you care what we're doing over in this community? Well, first of all, we'll keep you informed on the latest IGEL announcements. There's a new product like 10.4.100, we'll let you know. We'll post that information. But a community is not a community if we don't have a community, if we're not communicating. Otherwise, it's just a list of what's new, right? So we utilize Slack to share tips and tricks and scripts. We even have casual chit chat going on where the community members are just chatting randomly about what's interests them. And if it's interest to a techie, it might be interest to another techie. And it's just amazing what's going on in there. We have NFRs, believe it or not just IGEL NFRs, but the IGEL partners have come forward and said, hey, we want to share our NFRs with the IGEL community. And all they have to do is go click this link and they'll get free access to IGEL partners NFRs. Really neat benefit for joining the IGEL community. And things like feature requests. So have you ever wanted a new feature within the IGEL UMS or the IGEL OS, or just a thin client in general? You said, gee, I wish somebody would come up with this feature. Well, you can post that within the feature request channel of Slack, and amazing people like Matthias here keep the eye on it, and maybe one day that feature just might appear in the IGEL OS or the UMS or one of our products, right? And so much more. What's amazing about Slack, in just over 4.5 months, we've had over 7,000 messages float back and forth. But everything's nicely organized in these different channels, so it's not information overload. It's really amazing what's going on, and I hope you guys join so you can see that experience and of course, contribute to it and be a part of that conversation. We'll do upcoming webinars, and we'll record these webinars, and we'll post these webinars. So the goal there is to share with you what's new, to dive deep into the technologies and educate you and bring you up to speed. Of course, on IGEL technology, but also technologies like our partners. So, for example, the Device Trust webinar. We're going to do one with ThinPrint here soon. And of course, diving deep into the IGEL products themselves. So, a latest technical documentation and white papers. If there's a new piece of documentation that's important, we'll share it with you. If there's a new white paper, we'll share that with you, and we'll make that available to you and let you know that it's out there. Because no matter how great something is, if you don't know it's great, you don't know it's great. We have a GitHub repository for IGEL related community scripts and profiles. What does this mean? It means that, if you're a developer, if you're an engineer that likes to write scripts, well, we have a repository of those. And those aren't just stuff that we write ourselves at IGEL, but they're also community things. So we have gentlemen that are posting to our GitHub and sharing what they're writing. And profiles, like UMS profile, we're going to be posting stuff up there, and I'll talk about that here in a second. So, of course, we have projects. Any community, we have to have projects. And the first thing I sort of set forth was, let's put together some step-by-step how-to guides. Because if you're new to the community, if you're new to IGEL, you might say, where do I start? Well, this is where you start. I call it the IGEL Platform How-To Project Step-by-Step Getting Started Guide. And we'll teach you how to install the platform soup to nuts. So first the UMS, the ICG, the UDC, what all that means, what those acronyms mean, how to license it, and we'll take you from the time you download the software until the time it's fully running and you have deployed a client down to the operating system on any device. It's pretty amazing what we can do. The second doc we came out with is an IGEL OS firmware updates guide. IGEL 10.4.100 just shipped, so it made a lot of sense to document. Now here's a new update, here's a new firmware update. How do I deploy it? Well, this guide will step by step, screenshot by screenshot, teach you how to do that. So, and one of the things that's important to know is, yes, these are getting started guides, but they're also packed with a bunch of little tips and tricks and packed with links to our expert documentation to learn more and to dive deeper. So definitely refer to these docs, even if you're an expert, because you might learn something, believe it or not. And of course, coming soon, we're not stopping here. There's always something on the roadmap, right? I'll talk about the roadmap here in a second, but there's always something on the roadmap. And right now, I'm just finishing up a how to customize the IGEL OS and make it beautiful guide. This will teach you how to customize IGEL OS, exactly how it says, right? And one of the things I find most amazing about IGEL is that almost every little piece of the operating system can be customized. It can be turned on and off, or blue or red. Within this guide, we're going to teach you how to make it look beautiful. And one of the neat things we're going to do with this is, once this guide is out, we're going to have a contest for you to see who can make the most beautiful operating system. And the winner of that will get a free Intel NUC. We'll win an Intel NUC so that they can play around within their labs or what have you, right? So get your design hats on and get ready for that. More to come there. It's coming soon. And of course, like I said, we do have a roadmap. So we're going to have a monthly technical newsletter, which will feature, what's the most important things of the past month, maybe even a key community member, things like that. IGEL Community Web Portal. Today we utilize LinkedIn and Slack, but in the future we'll have a proper home, and it'll be where all this information I talk about is stored and sort of archived out to a nice place for you guys can go and find out what's, just log into the IGEL community and then link out to the appropriate resources, right? And Q3, Q4, we're going to have a VIP award. So, and you're probably all familiar with MVP, CTP, vExpert, things like that. We're going to have our own award, and it's truly going to be an award. I'm looking at the guys right now that we see them almost every day in Slack that's contributing to the community, that's sharing information with everyone and answering questions and just being great community members, and those will be our VIPs. So we'll do something special for these guys, and I'm really excited about this because there's a ton of them. So please join today. If you're interested in what I just said, if you want to contribute, if you want to learn more, please join. Today, there's really two places to join. We have a LinkedIn group, which sort of lists the announcements of what's new, but the community is really happening on Slack. So there's the links in the slack.igelcommunity.com will authenticate you directly into Slack. So click that link or type that into your browser, and away you go. So with no further ado, let me turn this over to my buddy, Matthias Huber, and let's learn all about 10.4.100, shall we? Matthias?
Thank you, Doug. Yeah, it's great to be on this first IGEL community webinar that I'm doing. And I've just seen we've surpassed 30 participants. So there's 31 people now here. And I'd like to thank you all for coming down and join this experiment, which it is at present. And also for those of you who are community members, thank you very much for your enthusiasm about IGEL and for sharing your knowledge and for building up this community in recent months together with Doug. So that's I'm really overjoyed to see that. So what is this going to be about? It's going to be about IGEL OS 10.04.100 that we released, I think, last week. And this is the agenda. The most interesting feature is UEFI Secure Boot. Then it has security fixes, as every good update should have. We have a couple of new features and some updates of clients such as Citrix Receiver. So, Secure Boot. What is UEFI Secure Boot and why should we support it in IGEL OS? UEFI is the successor to BIOS, so that's really the first thing that boots up when you after you hit the power button on your computer. And then it usually starts the operating system. Now, if I put a different operating system on your machine without you noticing. Or if I make small modifications, I may, for example, sniff your keyboard input in order to get your password. So that's basically the idea behind secure boot. So the UEFI system, which boots up first, has a database of keys from the UEFI consortium, for example, from Microsoft, and it checks whether the bootloader that it is supposed to start is signed with one of those keys. And we went through the process of qualifying for this with Microsoft, and we got a signature for our bootloader, which is shim from the Red Hat people, and we now have a signature. So when UEFI, which is configured to enforce secure boot, checks the signature on our shim, it sees that everything is all right and that it can load the shim. And the shim checks the next step, which is grub, the Linux bootloader, which has a signature from IGEL. And shim has a certificate it can check the signature against. And then finally grub checks the signature on the Linux kernel and loads it. So this is basically what happens now when you boot IGEL OS from your UD Pocket or from a UDC converted device. And why would we do that? If you use UD Pocket on your Windows laptop, previously you had to deactivate secure boot, and you don't want to do that because it's a security feature that makes sense, and it may also interfere with your BitLocker encryption on your hard drive. So if you deactivate secure boot, BitLocker will see the drive as potentially compromised. So that'd be a lot of trouble. And now you can simply leave your Windows system as it is because IGEL OS is able to boot on systems enforcing secure boot. It's been a long time in the making. It's been a long process, and this is a screenshot from the systems engineer dashboard at Microsoft. I was very glad when I saw that this submission had been approved, then that it was completed. So what that means, UD Pocket will boot on systems with activated secure boot. Also, the converter UDC3 will boot on systems with activated secure boot, and you can also activate UEFI secure boot on IGEL hardware, on our UDLX systems. I'll show you how that works in just a minute. This is already in documentation, so I'll leave PowerPoint for a moment and show you the new entry on eDocs. I hope you all know eDocs. edocs.igel.com is our central documentation website with lots of good stuff. And there also are instructions of how to activate secure boot on IGEL with screenshots from the UEFI. Actually, I'll do a live demo now because I have a little box, a little screen grabber that can show you the UEFI settings. So if you bear with me for a minute, this is on the new edition of UD3, and it runs IGEL OS 10.04.100, the current version, and now I'll have to reboot in order to access UEFI. I can do so by pressing down the delete button every once in a while. Okay, here we are. So this is the main menu of the UEFI. And so if you already have a UD3, you can set it to enforce secure boot via the following steps. You go to SCU, you go to boot. I hope this is showing up all right. Now it is. And you change the boot type. It's dual boot type now. That is UEFI boot and the old BIOS boot are both tried, but you only want UEFI boot because only UEFI boot enforces secure boot. If you leave the dual boot type, you can still boot unsigned operating system bootloaders via the legacy method. Okay, so we have that. And we can exit, save and exit that. And the other thing is, I think it's rebooting once again. Here we are. And then there's the secure boot option. And we'll have to configure this. So this takes a bit to load, and also there's a little bug in this display software. Okay. So it may look a little different on your side because it's very hard to reset this UEFI to a pristine state. So you would have secure boot disabled and even grayed out so you can't change it. And what you will do is to erase all secure boot settings and enable restore secure boot to factory settings. And if we now reboot, okay, it should set secure boot to enabled. So there's a lot of booting in this webinar, but okay, this is already the operating system. We can also see it in the operating system. So this is your usual IGEL OS 10 desktop. And we have a little accessory here in the menu, the I for information, it's the about. Okay, and it says here boot mode, EFI. That's not secure boot yet. So we'll have to reboot once more. A lot of hitting delete. Okay. It may actually just have needed another reboot. It's still disabled. Now let's enable everything. These are the moments when I wish IGEL OS would boot even faster. Now let's have a look at the About window. Now it's set to UEFI secure boot. So now we have secure boot, and that means that I can't boot an unsigned operating system. And to try that out, I have an old UD Pocket, a previous version which does not support secure boot yet and doesn't have a bootloader signed by the UEFI consortium. So I'll insert that and try to boot so that you see what that will look like. And then we'll be done with rebooting for a while. So I'll have to force this a little. No. I wonder. So boot x64 EFI. This is the old bootloader which is not signed. So I'll try to start that, and now you see it has been blocked by the current security policy. So that's basically a demonstration of secure boot. And back to the slides. Okay. As said, there are instructions on eDocs for all of our IGEL thin client models. And with secure boot enabled, you must not downgrade below IGEL OS 10.03500 because that had the first kernel signed with our key. But the software makes it impossible to downgrade below that when you have secure boot enabled. So really, what are the benefits? Is this now really a secure and trusted operating system? Not really, I must admit, because we only have part of the trust chain from UEFI up to the Linux kernel. And midterm, IGEL's plans are to have a full chain going from the hardware via UEFI shim, grub, and the Linux kernel to the operating system partitions on the medium. And the plan is to use the feature our board from AMD in the upcoming UD7 has, which is called AMD Hardware Validated Boot. It has a secure processor that is started before the main processor and that checks the signature of the UEFI. So it extends this chain by one step and nails the UEFI version on the board, more or less. And on the other side of the chain, we have a signed kernel, but then we will also sign our operating system partitions and check the signature. And this will then really be a system whose integrity is really guaranteed. So this is a look into the future. But for the time being, I'd say the main benefit is for systems, for third-party systems that have secure boot enabled, you needn't touch that. IGEL OS will just work. And that's a good thing. All right. Any questions about secure boot or booting in general, maybe?
Here's a question for you, Matthias. Will the signed partitions also work with Intel-based LX models and the UD3 with Intel chipsets?
Oh yes, yeah. The only thing that would be AMD specific is on the other end of the chain, where we have the signature of the UEFI checked. But the signed partition will work on any 64-bit AMD 64 architecture.
Great.
So you will have that, and maybe there'll be something from Intel on the other side of the chain by the time we get there. Let's see. So AMD are offering us the feature now on our UD7, and we are planning to use it. But if it becomes available from another chip vendor, yeah, why not take it? But the signatures are hardware independent.
Makes sense.
Does that answer the question?
I think so, absolutely.
Okay, cool. Then let's proceed. Of course, we always have a lot of security fixes. If you look at the text version of our release notes, it's almost 100 CVE numbers that you can find there, because we have so many components inside IGEL OS. because we support such a lot of use cases and software, we have to do a lot of fixes. But the most important fixes were, of course, Meltdown and the 2-Spectre variants, which we have now. And they're fixed in the Linux kernel, and we also have received microcode from the processor vendors for our hardware. And we're still waiting for some more updated microcode files for third-party vendors' hardware. So Meltdown Spectre fixed. We fixed it 9 days after it was, well, accidentally published early. That was not too bad, I think. Other vendors were much slower. Okay. In the SMB protocol, the server message block, the Windows file sharing protocol, there are a couple of versions, and the version 1.0 is very old and it has security issues. It is a vehicle for a very common type of attacks. It's in every penetration tester's toolkit. So by default, we turned off SMB version 1.0 and made 2.0 the default. If you have a different version, you can go to the registry and change that. And it is used by the SMB mount program that lets you mount Windows shares on IGEL OS. So here's another fix. SSH, we have an SSH server in IGEL OS, which you may or may not use. If you manage your IGEL OS clients with our own universal management suite UMS, you usually don't use it because that's simply a TLS encrypted connection. But if you want to do it, say, the Unixy way and SSH into the clients, you can activate the OpenSSH server. And as it is with cryptography, as progress is made, algorithms and key lengths get outdated, and we had to disable the weak message authentication codes and also the weak key exchange algorithms and also the weak host key algorithms. So what you have now as the standard configuration, as the factory setting, are the new and safe settings. If you have legacy systems that need to use the SSH server, you can downgrade this. Of course, this is creating some security issues, but you can do it in the registry, which you find in setup and which you can configure via UMS profiles. So summing up, as far as the SMB version and the SSH settings are concerned, the default settings are the new and secure ones. And you can downgrade it, but please only if needed. Any questions about the security fixes, Doug?
If I take myself out of mute, I can ask. What is the default encryption level for SSH server?
Oh, I have to look that up really, because it's a lot of details. But I can send that in the follow-up mail.
Perfect.
Yeah, I think usually it's a list, and the client and server negotiate the highest common denominator. But I can find out.
Sounds good.
Okay. Sorry. So new features. We support our new UD7 IGEL thin client. In this stage without the additional graphics card, and the cool thing about the UD7 is that it can do 2 4K displays at 60 Hertz, and I think one 4K screen additionally at 30 Hertz. And then you can put in an additional graphics card, and then you can do a fourth screen. So this is a way to have a 4-screen mode at high resolutions. Then we have modernized the UD3. It used to have a weaker CPU. Now we have a new, more powerful processor in it. And of course, we support that as well. And if you use IGEL OS in the Universal Desktop Converter, you're running it on third-party hardware. We've upgraded to Linux kernel 5.15, which is quite recent for a stable Linux distribution, and that should support a lot of your more recent hardware. There's a little tweak in the graphics system in the x.org. What's that? We used to force all the monitors to use 60 Hertz, and now we're actually looking at the edit data and check what is supported. And if you have a monitor that can do 4K at 30 Hertz, we respect that and treat it accordingly. And previously, it just would have stayed black. So that's really a bug fix. If anything goes wrong, which it sometimes does with display configuration, we now have an Xorg debug script with a lot of that outputs a log file with debugging information, with a lot of information. You can run it from the terminal, or what's even cooler, you can run it remotely from UMS, because that has a menu item that's called help, save TC files for support. And that will, amongst other things, run the debug script and collect the debug log file from the thin client and put it into a zip archive together with other log files and make it available for your inspection or for the inspection by IGEL support. And what else is in this zip file? It's what you can see here. It's a large collection of all kinds of log files, the setup file, the group file, the DHCP leases, the system journal, the Xorg log, monitor info, sound card info, WPA wireless authentication debugging, and so forth. So there are a lot of log files, and you can all retrieve them from UMS remotely. And what's even better, you can add any log file you want to that collection, because everything is transferred and put into the zip that's configured in the system log viewer accessory. So if you, in setup, you can configure the system log viewer, and in the options, you can simply add paths to any log files you want. And because you might have duplicate names, duplicate base names, the files do not longer lie just flat in the archive, but it has directories such as var log and etc. and so on, just to keep the files in order. So that's really some progress in logging and monitoring, which we are going to improve generally because it's important for security audits. And we are working on ramping up security in 2018. IGEL security is decent, but now we're going to take a systematic approach. We're going to have it audited according to the German standard IT Grundschutz, and possibly according to other standards. And this means we have to implement a couple of features, and we're going to have a systematic test suite. and things are going to be according to specification now. IGEL OS 10.04.100 also sees the return of the XDMCP appliance mode. So the X Display Manager Control Protocol, which lets you log into remote X servers. Some people need that, and it's back. Simple as that. We once had a feature that let you do multiple X sessions in Windows, but we haven't got that yet in 10.04.100, but it's planned for 10.05.100. And maybe there will be a PB, a private build for some customers that need the feature earlier. The bootcode update, this is a little fix for an issue you might have or might not have noticed. On a UEFI system, there are two partitions for the bootcode, and it so happened that sometimes only one of the partitions got updated in an update, and now we're making sure both are getting updated. I'll give Doug this presentation, by the way, so you can read up on it. We're also recording this webinar, and I'll have some follow-up with the questions I couldn't answer just now. And by the way, it's 28 degrees centigrade in my office now. So here in the south of Germany, in Augsburg, where IGEL Research and Development is, yeah, it suddenly turned summer in April. All right, we are making other things more systematic as well. That's, we didn't have an end user license agreement, which every piece of software seems to have nowadays. Now we have that in IGEL OS as well. You have this setup assistant that runs at the first run of factory settings system, and it lets you acknowledge the EULA. We've added a smart card PKCS number 11 library, which you need for use with US government smart cards. It's called CoolKey. You needed to load that specifically in previous versions, and now it's just one of the libraries you can pick from. The WPE supplicant, the thing that authenticates you against the wireless network, has learned a new method, the TTLS PAP and TTLS MS CHAP v2. And the XC font server is back, because apparently there are people who like it. So far for some software updates. So I'll just press on, I think, and we can have a more general discussion, an open discussion, once I'm through the slides. How does it sound, Doug?
That sounds wonderful, absolutely.
Sounds all right? Okay, yeah,
good.
because not everyone may care really about XDMCP and those little details, but they may have more general questions about IGEL OS. So now the most production critical software, of course, on a thin client is the software that you need to connect to your server systems, to your VDIs. And the default Citrix Receiver is now 13.8.0. People are already asking for 13.9. We'll integrate it into a private build in April still. And also it's going to be in the next version 10.05.100. But for people who are desperate for 13.9, we'll have something in April. Returning to 13.8, the most interesting feature of it is the support for Citrix Cloud, which I haven't tried yet, I must say. But it makes it possible to share different virtualization approaches, e.g. mixing your own data center with Azure or Amazon Cloud. one in, one out. Receiver version 13.5 has had to go. And along with the new Citrix Receiver, we have a new version of the Citrix HDX real-time media engine, which optimizes, for example, video telephony with Skype for Business, and that's been updated to 2.4.0. There's also been an update for VMware Horizon, and that supports seamless window mode in each application session now, and it supports using Fabula Tech, one of our technology partners, Fabula Tech USB redirection in Horizon PC over IP sessions. So another detail there that may be useful for some people. Our own IGEL RDP client has now an increased TCP user timeout, and we've had sessions that had unspecific connection losses, and we're hoping if we increase the timeout, we will see less of those. Also, if you log in with SmartCard, you can now still change the server IP as a user. Other clients, we've added Parallels client, and we've also seen the return of Ekiga, the free software voice over IP client that you may know from IGEL Linux 5. All right, some issues remain. Some people like to use optic fiber cards with our products, and there are some issues with this specific Telesys network fiber card that is not working stable, but we can recommend a slightly different card which hasn't got the same issues. Pulse audio has serious issues on some hardware. For example, we have a tablet here where pulse audio takes 100% of the CPU load, but there still is no sound at all. And also we did a little workaround for an HDMI issue, which is not very nice, but works. And we're going to fix this in a future version. All right, and yes, now it's time for the first audience participation, really. I like to end these things with the quiz, and that's not because I want to make you feel you're at school again. It's just to help you remember what we've been talking about. And here's question 1. What settings do you need to change in the UD3 UEFI in order to enforce secure boot? So Doug, do you think you could help me getting some answers from the attendees?
Yeah. Does anybody remember this? If you do, use the questions piece and go ahead and answer it. I learned that Matthias asked questions and he stumped me the first time.
Maybe we should have a prize next time.
Yeah, we should have a prize next time.
Then that would become a real quiz, you know.
You got it. Somebody says one of the audience members enforce secure boot, reset to defaults in UEFI only.
Yes, and but that's hang on a sec. I think I can read it. Oh, I often have difficulties with this. Oh, okay, reset to defaults. Yes, that's it. So the one thing you have to do is enforce UEFI boot only, not legacy boot, and then you have to reset the secure boot settings. All right, question 2. This is the answer, but you can read it all on eDocs. So how do you add a log file to the collection saved by UMS? I told you about that nice UMS feature. It's in the upcoming UMS version 5.8.110, by the way, which we'll release on 4th of May. How can I add a file to that?
Well, you did just answer one of the questions, was what is the release date for 5.8.110? So
Yes, I did.
I'll go ahead and delete that one.
Okay. So how can you add a log file of your own choice to this nice collection feature?
Wait until, as somebody says, wait until 5.8.110 is released and add the new log directory's location.
Excellent. Excellent. Very correct and complete.
Impressive.
Here's another one. You added under, this is of course the setup path, accessories, system log viewer, options. And which Citrix Receiver version had to go?
Next time I'll bring in Jeopardy theme song, the old one.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and
Someone,
I was going to buy buzzers for, the face-to-face seminars.
yeah,
That would be fun.
yeah, yeah. So one person said the old one, which that's I like that.
Yes, it's always the old one.
It's always the old one, and
The
13.5, which
number,
many people have
yes, is
chimed
the
in on.
right answer. I wonder if okay, that's so far for the questions. And where can you find further information? In the release notes, which you can find A on edocs and B on our download server, myigel.biz. And I tend to recommend the plaintext version because it has all the information in one file. And here's a little trick. While this webinar was about only the most important new features and changes in the release, the release notes have all the changes. So if you're interested in whether a specific issue has been fixed, or if you're interested in a specific feature, just take the text file and search it with your favorite text editor. So that's the way really to answer the question, oh, well, has the driver for the such and such chips been fixed? That's the way to do it. So go to the plaintext file. That's what I recommend for techies. And there's also the updated manual on edocs. Okay, now I think we'll have 10 or more. Oh, well, thank you. That's me having a bit of fun at the Augsburg office. You see this being the research and development department. We have very interesting research instruments. So thank you very much. And this is what I look like in case we should meet at an IGEL event. And then you can say hello. Oh, is there another question?
We have a few questions, and guys, please, if you have
Okay.
any questions, even if it's, well, I'll say it, even if it's not related to what Matthias presented, and
Yes,
you
yes,
just had a
general.
question you want answered, please use the questions piece and go ahead and ask it. And we have about 5 of them here, so let me go through them real quick with you, Matthias. So, how about RTME 2.5.0?
That will come with the 13.9 receiver.
Okay.
I think it's still in beta at the moment, but we'll do a private build as soon as we have it.
Yeah, and here's
So
one
if you
that's
need that, talk to your IGEL representative. The pre-sales people, they can give you a private build.
perfect. And is there? I like the question, the funny one.
Yes.
Is there any roadmap to hold a version of? Is there any roadmap to hold on a version of the HDX RTME 2.4? Is LTSR and is backwards and forwards compatible with the client?
Ooh, I'm not quite sure whether I understood that correctly, actually.
Yeah, it says, is there, let me read it again. Is there any roadmap to hold on a version of the HDX RTME 2.8 and then 2.4 is LTSR and backwards and forwards
Okay.
compatible with the client?
Whoa, I'll have to follow up on that. I have to follow up on that. All right. Where do we buy the scooters? We buy them from eBay. And they're for my colleague's twin.
Great. And then
But I
somebody asked
couldn't.
you, yeah, about
Yeah,
the 13.9 private build. Where do they get them? And you just sort of answer that. Talk to your local SE. If you don't,
yeah,
uh,
yeah.
if you don't know your local SE, please let me know, and I'll get you in touch with the right
hmm
people. Right?
That's the
Uh,
way to do it.
yeah. PB for Pulse Audio Fix. PB with Pulse Audio Fix.
We we don't know about the reason yet, really. Do you mean the HDMI fix or the CPU eater? So the CPU eater is erratic in a way, which is not a very happy state of affairs, but it's like that sometimes. And the HDMI thing, I can follow up on that.
Perfect.
Maybe it'll be in the private build, but it'll be definitely in the 10.05.
Here's a good question. Serious question, he says, and it's a great question. Is there a complete network diagram available for IGEL to UMS communications on eDocs?
Do you mean a request and response kind of thing with all the
Uh,
data that go back and forth?
yeah, you got it.
There isn't. There isn't.
That would be something cool to build.
Um, I think we have something that we give people on request. What is on eDocs is a list of the TCP and UDP ports used. Now, where is that? Oh, wrong product. Universal Management Suite. Communication post. So here's a list of all the TCP and UDP ports used.
Yeah, it would be cool to
But
create a poster. You see those Microsoft has
wow.
those posters,
Okay. Okay.
That would be neat.
TC poster. So I'll look into that. I can't promise really. Okay, because of course the poster would have several parts because
Yeah.
the UMS does various things. It transfers configurations, it sends commands, it does VNC, it acts as a download server for files, it acts as an update server, it sends UDP wake up packets and so on. Actually, that might be a nice marketing material.
Yeah.
Okay, why not have a poster?
Yeah, Microsoft has
Great,
those, and
great,
people
great
absolutely love them.
suggestion. Yes, I see. So that'd be really very technical for our marketing people because usually they, you know, communicate stuff at the very bird's eye view. Yeah, here's that system and this system, and together they're really great. But that'd be cool for the techies. Okay,
Yeah.
that's very nice.
Here's another one. How can I get a private build for for July with the Citrix Receiver for Linux 13.9? Contact your local SE. And if you don't
Exactly.
know that guy, please let me know, and I will get you in touch with the right people.
Yes, definitely.
Any other questions, guys? And one of our Douglas DeCamp, one of our SEs actually, posted a nice eDocs link, which Douglas, did you send that to everyone? I can send it to everyone. I can send. So check out the questions piece, and I just sent a
Uh-huh.
reply to everyone with an IC docs for a poster for the ICG that customers seem to love.
Ah, here's an eDocs link. Ah, now I'm getting the hang of this questions thing. Ah, da-da-da-dum, da-dum, da-dum, da-dum. Ah, la 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 la
I
la
think we got
la.
them all, Matthias. But if there's anything else,
Got them
please.
all.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I'm trying to show the link. Oh, yes, and Douglas also said we have such a diagram of the network communications for ICG, the IGEL Cloud Gateway, which is available on request.
Cool. So, guys, if you have any other questions, please post it now. If not, we'll go ahead and call this an episode. And like Matthias said, and I said, we definitely recorded this thing. We'll send it out. We'll post it on the Slack channel.
Oh yeah, this is the very basic network topology for ICG, but we really have something which is more detailed, how we transfer the commands and the settings.
Oh, that'd be great.
Here's
Is
another
that something
link.
that's available? Is that available on request? Is that something we can post? You know me, I always want to post
available on request because it's really very detailed and gives you insight into our technology. Okay, this seems to be the same one.
Yeah. So that's really, guys, that's the moral of the story. If you really want something, you know, definitely come to me. I will go to bat and make sure you get it. But your local SC is your best friend. These guys, like I said at the beginning, one of the things that really, I wouldn't say surprised me, but made me extremely happy was the quality of intelligence within our employees. I mean, even the marketing people are extremely technical. So, but the SEs are second to none, and I've been around, so I'm really quite impressed. So, if you need something, you know, find your local guys, join the community if you're not a member, and I think we'll be able to help you out and then some.
Yes, so, they're very eager to do anything to help you out.
You got it. You got it.
Absolutely.
So, Matthias, I think we're done, man. I think we can go home.
The first IGEL community webinar from within IGEL.
From within IGEL, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, so we'll do more of these, and I'm gonna bug this guy to come on as much as he can possibly give me time. So I don't know if he knows what he walked into, but I think he knows how to say no.
Well, let's hear how people liked it. Maybe you could have a little feedback round on Slack or something.
You bet. Yeah.
I'd be interested in that.
Please, guys, if
people like more of this or more of that, and not so many slides or not so much fiddling with the UEFI screens or whatever.
You got it. Yeah, if you're still on, some people are dropping off. Please let me know on Slack. I'll post this on Slack. I'll also say that.
Yeah, but, that would be great.
You know, this is a community, and it's like I said, for techies by techies. So, you know, if you guys want anything, let us know. It's that simple. One of the great things, another great thing I love about IGEL is when I ask for something, I almost always get it. In the sense of, you know, hey, if you guys need a UD Pocket, I can get you a UD Pocket. You know, if you want to be if you need anything, you let me know and I'll make sure it happens.
Why shouldn't we? I mean, we should be happy that people want our stuff.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah. It's amazing. So yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Okay.
So thanks everybody for attending and staying on. Have a wonderful rest of this Thursday.